Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Day in the Life of Vintage Classic Specialist here for a Friday. It is July 26th. Anyway, I will come back to this shortly, but let's talk about a few other things first. Then we'll have fun talking about this guy. So today, got the back of this one back on the ground. And the funny thing is, although it didn't really seem very funny, the issues that I had with the rear axles and bearings on this car, which is an IRS car, is exactly the same issues that I had with the rear bearings and axles on the 68 double cab. So not only would the new bearings not really fit the axles, I think the axles were a bit beat up, but it took some work. Again, it was probably removing a couple thousandths of an inch to get them to fit off the axles. But then the bearings didn't really want to fit very nicely into the hubs either, or into the trailing arms. So spent quite a bit of time jacking around with those, opening them up ever so slightly at a time until the bearings went in with like a loose press fit or a snug slip fit somewhere in there where, I could get them in with a little tapping, but not have to hit them in with a giant ass mallet or anything like that. Cause that's not right. Not supposed to be that tight, but pretty much got them to the point where I could tap them in with a mallet and get them to go in and seat correctly. There was no way they were going in like that initially until I basically ever so slightly opened up the inside bore of the trailing arms where the bearings go. So it took me way longer than it should have to get the rear axles on this car. And so I got those on and I put on the brake backing plates. And then I was actually going to go ahead and install the drum brakes. Remember, this car is staying drum brakes. The front's going to be disc. And mounted up the wheel cylinders, or one of the wheel cylinders, and started kind of test fitting up the brake shoes. And lo and behold, the the wheel cylinders that I have, despite being in boxes that are labeled indicating that they're correct for this car, they did not line up correctly at all with the brake shoes. So it looked like the wheel cylinders that I had were for an earlier car which used narrower brake shoes, because there's no way these brake shoes were fitting with those wheel cylinders. The brake shoes did line up with the adjusters though, which tells me that the brake shoes are right, and they were actually also in boxes that had them labeled as the correct ones. So I think somehow the wheel cylinders that I got were labeled incorrectly in their boxes. Maybe somebody returned them and mixed up, I don't know, but they're not going. So I don't know, I'll get another set and see what happens. But that was pretty frustrating after spending a good portion of the day trying to get the back of this thing together, and then finally getting to the end, the brakes, and they just weren't going. So that sucked. But anyway, that's how it goes sometimes. But it was good to get this one back on the ground, because it was kind of a pain in the ass and kind of sketchy to move around. Basically, I had a floor jack under the back of the chassis there, so the whole thing was kind of tipsy, because in the front I only have it on a little furniture dolly. So the car was pretty tipsy. I didn't like moving it around like that. So at very least, I'm glad to have the axles back on and back on wheels. So at least the car is stable now, because I needed to move the car so that we could bring this guy in. And not there yet. Let's talk about this one first. So this came back today from Octavio's, and as usual, these guys did an amazing job with the headliner. And you can see that they went ahead while they had it and did the rear carpet. They'll do the rest of the carpet all up in here once the body and pan go back together. But for now, while they had it, they went ahead and did the carpet back there. But also, look at this headliner. I mean, this is perfection if I've ever seen it. And likewise, the metal sunroof. The sunroof opens and closes really smooth. Just bitchin' work all the way around. So excited about this car. This car is just going to be unbelievable when it's done. Just how nice everything is on it and the level of detail that we're putting into it. Again, even the inner fenders, I mean, you know, so much as like doing body work on those, buffing those areas, stuff like that. This car is going to be unbelievable. So yeah, it was good to get this car back because now we can continue working on it and get it ready to go onto its chassis, which we may be doing a little sooner than we thought because we've got another customer who wants to bring in a 61 Beetle, another like family type deal for a full restoration. So I'm really wanting to get this body on that chassis a little sooner than we might have so that we can create space for this 61 complete restoration. Again, another family car. So that's it for that one for now and for that one. So let's talk about this. So those of you that follow the channel probably know where this came from. So the yellow Ghia that has been most recently sitting right here, this one has taken its place. So our good customer and friend to the shop, Jim, we basically traded his Ghia for his buggy today. So the buggy had been residing in his garage. Now the Ghia is living in his garage and the buggy's living here. So this is an original Manx Buggy. The body is a 1968. I think it's number 1700 something. I don't know. He went and had the number of it verified and everything with Manx, and this thing's as legit as it gets. But again, this was his dad's car, and Jim and his family have a lot of memories. They drove this thing a lot. They took it up to the mountains and the lake and so on. So lots and lots and lots of pretty rich family history with this one, much more so than the Ghia, I think, which the family had not nearly as long as this one. But like I mentioned, body's a 68 Manx body. The chassis we believe to be a 65 chassis. It's got a pretty correct looking as far as like being right for a 65 Beetle 40 horse. It's a fresh air 40 horse, which means that it had the fan here blowing the air for the heater system versus the air coming out the bottom and then going into the heater system. So this is this setup here is called fresh air. So this is a fresh air 40 horse, which would have been correct for a 65 last year for a 40 horse engine. So, you know, who knows? This may be actually the original motor that went with this pan, with this chassis. But pretty much the same story here as the Ghia. It was Jim's dad's vehicle. The car sat for I don't know how long, decades maybe. Good thing is he kept it covered, I think, with a tarp. I think it was outside, but it was covered in a tarp. So it's actually pretty well preserved. So kind of the same plan as we had for the Ghia, but probably a bit more extensive on this one as far as the restoration is concerned. So the body and pan on this one are gonna be separated. Jim found someone who can actually, let me show this close up if I can here. You can see that red metal flake there. That is actually the original gel coat of this car, which is this really coarse red metal flake. And Jim actually found a guy who kind of specializes in these things in, oh, why is that blurry? That's annoying. There we go. In San Diego, who can pretty much spray paint that has, you know, nearly this coarse of metal flake. So once we get the body separated, Jim is going to actually take the body down to this guy in San Diego and have him do, you know, any body work or whatever needed on it, and then pretty much take it back to the original red. We did talk about trying to strip this yellow paint off and get back to the gel coat, which is probably very well preserved under here, but I think Jim's concern, which is probably valid, is that his dad probably painted it for a reason, and so there's probably underneath this yellow paint, there's probably like Bondo and stuff. You can see there's maybe some cracking back here. So the thought is that it was probably painted for a reason. And so rather than, you know, necessarily us go and like strip it all down and then find a bunch of Bondo and ugly filled areas, I think the plan is to just, you know, obviously like do whatever sanding and body work is needed and then paint it as close as possible to the original gel coat color. So this thing will be pretty much brought back to its former glory, and then obviously we'll go through all the mechanicals, rebuild the engine, transmission, probably have new floor pans put in it. These are kind of roached out. We'll have all the upholstery redone. Jim does not like the height at which this, the rear roll bar sits. So we'll probably, I think this is actually adjustable, so we'll probably lower it down a few inches. So this is maybe not level, but closer to level. He thinks it looks goofy. And so, yeah, some little changes like that. But, honestly, we'll probably stick with these wheels, which were, some kind of aftermarket buggy wheel on the back, and then I think 67 wheel on the front. Probably just stick with that, honestly. Maybe even stick kind of with skinny tires on front and some fatter ones on the back. Pretty much make it look like it looked back in the day, and then again back to the original red color that it was. So that's the plan. I think we're actually going to retain this kind of weird air cleaner. So Jim's kids have memories of riding in the back seat here and kind of listening to this thing make sucking engine sounds. So, it's part of the car's history. We'll probably do something to make a new bracket that looks a little less, kind of wonky here. Maybe just a C-shaped bracket instead of, get rid of this thing here coming up, which really serves no purpose other than bolting this bracket together. So, we can kind of preserve this, but at the same time, make the installation look a lot cleaner and, still retain those family memories of, riding in the back seat and listening to the engine kind of suck in through there, really cool stuff like that. So, that is pretty much the plan for this car. So we will probably start in on it, I don't know, maybe next week. Jim's not in like a huge hurry. So, but yeah, we'll probably start tearing into it here before too long and make a game plan and get her going. So that is it for today. And that is it for this week, guys. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again soon. Bye.